Last week, I was not active on YouTube due to being fully enveloped with school, and I actually was able to fully experience how much of a problem Darktide's mission select is. For the record, I always knew that this was a problem, and I think everyone knows that it's been a problem, but I personally did not really get to experience how much of a problem this was until last week. For those that don't know, hi, my name is Justin, otherwise known as JTC, and I am a classically trained vocalist who is getting his degree in vocal performance. Because of that, I often do a lot of performances, and last week I did a performance of the musical by Stephen Sondheim called Little Night Music. You may or may not know what that is, but that is the musical that the song Send in the Clowns is from. You might know that the song, or if you're kind of more into the musical theater side of things, you might recognize the song Weekend in the Country. But either way, if you have never been in a musical production before, especially as an actor, the production process is very, very long, it's hard, and it's tiring. And especially musicals written by Stephen Sondheim are notorious for being very, very difficult because he writes very difficult music. Very brilliant man and brilliant composer, but he writes very difficult music that requires a lot of effort and prep from the actors to actually prepare. Which is, all that being said, last week was a very, very physically and mentally taxing week for me, which is why I was not really that much active. Also, on top of that, I had to go to classes, so I was leaving at like 8 a.m. in the morning and not coming home until 11 p.m. at night, and doing that pretty much all day last week, 7 days a week. However, there were one or two times where my professors were kind enough to let me out of class, or I just skipped class, and I was actually able to have a couple of, not really a couple of hours, but like an hour or maybe an hour and a half of some free time to myself to do whatever I wanted. Now, during this time, I decided to be a good little YouTuber, and I wanted to play some Darktide in order to collect some plasteel, get some more crafting done, just experiment with the game and further my knowledge of the game. However, the problem was I was very, very tired mentally and physically, so I really wasn't able to do anything that difficult. So when I went to sit down on that first day when I had some free time, I said to myself, okay, I want to play low-intensity Damnation, or I want to play just a normal Damnation. I did not want to play Heresy because I needed plasteel in order to upgrade weapons and get some actual weapons and trinkets in order to make builds for guides and yada yada yada. So I said, okay, I want to play easy Damnation. So on that first day, I booted up the game with only about an hour to play before I had to go to rehearsal, and I wouldn't have been home until 11, in which I would have been gone to bed, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at the mission select board to see what exactly was free for me to play. And I looked, and it was nothing but high-intensity shock troop gauntlet for all Damnations across the board. And I said, okay, I don't really have the mental capacity to play these because I'm so tired, but I will just go ahead and see when they'll refresh because they might refresh soon. They were not going to refresh for half an hour. Darktide runs, especially the really difficult ones, take about half an hour, if not more. So at that point, I physically did not have time to play any Damnation runs that day. And so I said, okay, and I closed the game. Day 2 rolled around, and I had about an hour and a half, so I had some time to wait, so I decided to boot up the game once more, and I checked the Damnation lobbies once more, having the same kind of mindset as the day before, and they were all high-intensity shock troop gauntlet. There was one normal high-intensity Damnation, but otherwise it was all the same as the previous day. I was prepared this time to actually wait for the refresh, but when I actually looked at it, I decided that I did not want to waste my time sitting around doing nothing when I could be doing something else. So once more, I closed the game and decided to go play Resident Evil 4 instead. The final day, I had, only about 45 minutes to kill, and so I decided for shits and giggles, let's just check to see what lobbies are open. And I checked, and wouldn't you know, it was high-intensity Shock Troop Gauntlet. And at that point, I said, okay, I haven't played in a while, I just want to play, so I booted up a normal Heresy lobby, and just played through that, and I did fine, but I didn't really play how I wanted to play Darktide, and that is the biggest issue. I've always said that the mission select board needs to be tweaked so that it lets us directly choose what we want to play, but after last week and directly experiencing the frustration of not being able to play what exactly I want to play, and then end up quitting in frustration for that entire reason, the mission select board needs to be changed. I've heard of an argument going around the community against the notion of changing the mission board because of the reason that Fat Shark is going for a very specific style of game with Darktide and is trying to push a very specific ambiance of the game. and their argument is changing the mission board would ruin that ambiance. But my counter argument to that is ambiance does not matter if nobody wants to interact with the game or the mechanic in the first place. Furthermore, I do think it's possible to change the mission select mechanic to keep that aesthetic that Fat Shark wants to give the game, while giving players more control over they want to play, which is by allowing us to purchase missions that get increasingly more expensive the more we customize them. If I were to go and choose a specific map with a specific difficulty, that wouldn't be very expensive to play, whereas if I were to choose the map, the difficulty, the modifiers, and the secondary objective, then it would be much more expensive to actually play that mission. Yeah, I'll be honest, that's about all I got for this video. It was a little more ranty, and I'm still kind of brain fried from last week, so let me know what y'all think in the comments below. See ya.